welcome.
We're going to start off with a joke for you.
A joke?
Oh,
wow.
Yes. That's a good way to start off.
Excellent. Mine's sort of an anecdote. So,
Ooh, yes.
We had a patient, and he came to see us, and he said that he hadn't had a bowel movement in a week.
A whole week. So what I did was I gave him a mild laxative, and I told him he should come back to see us if he wasn't better in 2 days.
But 2 days later, he showed back up, and he said he still hadn't had a bowel movement.
So I gave him a stronger laxative. Oh, yeah. And I told him come back in 2 days if that didn't help him.
2 days later, shows back up, still no bowel movement.
Now I'm flummoxed. This is so odd, nurse. And I say, listen, we've got to delve into your history to figure out what is wrong with you. I'm going to take a full history, and we're going to start off with, what do you do for a living?
And he said, oh, I play music for the local Renaissance Festival.
Oh, I say, okay, I get it now. I know what the problem is. Here's $10 for you. Go eat something.
All those poor, starving Renaissance artists out there, they need your help to be able to have safe and functioning bowel movements.
I would like to get credit as like being a doctor who actually gave a patient money to solve their problem.
Yeah,
very often.
I don't think that's ever happened before.
Oh, wait. I just realized some of the good people who are viewing this might not know who we are.
That is hard to believe, but if it happens to be the case, we should probably introduce ourselves. We are Medieval Medicine Show.
I am the medieval doctor.
And I'm the Renaissance nurse.
And welcome to your virtual Renaissance Festival.
Wow.
I want to thank Laura for inviting us to be hosts today. We're so excited. Now, those of you who are very observant have noticed that we are a two-person act. And some of you may be concerned that we are violating the rules of social distancing, but fear not. We have this industrial-grade medical curtain that is hanging up. And I understand that it was not around too many people who died in the hospital, but yes, this is actually from one of our hospitals. Oh, yes, and we have Lysol, Clorox, everything in these bottles, so we can spray each other. So, you know, I was actually in the habit of doing this for the nurse because she kind of, well, but no, okay, but the thing is, we are staying safe.
Yes, protective apparel.
All right, so today we have got a full lineup for you all, and we are very excited about hosting it. We've got Faire Enough. We have Bjorn the Timid. We've got Chris Phelps doing some American Sign Language. We've got Pie in the Sky Hoops, the Lute and the Lady, Ogre Leatherworks nurse, the Bilge Pumps. We like pirates quite a bit, so we're in. Cydeshow Cy. Oh, sword swallowing.
Sword swallowing.
And
Sasanach
Fiddles and Vince Conaway. Oh, so we're excited to bring you this variety show of music, artisans, feats. So we're going to start this of their fair, the limitations on travel, and we're going to post Venmo donation links in the chat so that you can help support them. Right, nurse?
Yes. Dig deep into your hearts and your wallets and your devices and give generously.
And I will say that there is one thing that we need to start off with, which is a toast.
A toast. Now, I know it seems like it might be early, but no one has any idea what time anything is anymore. So it is a good time to start drinking. So get your beverage, BYO, obviously, and join us in a toast.
You know, I was worried that, you know, Sunday this early is not the time for drinking, but my grandma assured me that this is actually the perfect time to drink.
Oh, yeah?
She asked, have I ever even heard of a mimosa?
Uh-huh.
Oh, right.
Well, actually, let me tell you something about my grandmother.
Oh, yes.
My dear sweet grandmother is 80 years old, and she doesn't need glasses. She drinks right out of the bottle.
All right. I love it. So here's another toast, and this kind of ties back into our plea for you all to please help our artists at this time. Here's health to those I love, and wealth to those who love me.
Ooh, I like that one. Drink.
I love all of us. All right.
Hopefully you will share your wealth with everyone here today.
So, you know, times are a little bit trying, nurse, don't you think?
They are. They're trying me anyway.
Well, you know, we are dealing with a completely new situation. And I'll tell you what, it has changed medical care.
It has. It really has, dramatically.
There was a man who I had to see. He was traveling abroad, and he came back. And boy, he started exhibiting signs that he had a bad infection, he got a fever, and all this. So I immediately had him go to the hospital, and we ran tests on him. They put him in an isolation room, and I called him up in the isolation room, and he said, "Doctor, tell me what's going on." And I said, "Listen, we're concerned in your travels abroad, you contracted something that's contagious, so we're putting you in this room." And he said, "Okay, but what are we supposed to do about it?" And I said, that the next step is that we have to give you a strict diet of pancakes, pita bread, and pizza.
Wait, pancakes, pita bread, and pizza? That doesn't sound so bad.
Well, he asked, you know, is that going to help his disease? And I said, no, but it's the only thing we can slide under the door.
Oh, hey, you know, we're doing what we can here.
That's right. And you know what? I will say this. We do have a little bit of an issue because what's going to happen is we're going to have to change the way we treat people.
We are?
That's right. But there are some treatments that do stay the same, right, nurse?
They are. I think there's some things that I've mentioned before is universally effective.
That's right. Alcohol, beer and wine will make you feel just fine. If you feel a little sicker, you can always try hard liquor. Any problem, big or small, can be cured with alcohol.
Sing it with us.
That's right. For those of you who know our stuff, you know how to sing along on the chorus. But what you might not know is the new verse that I wrote specifically for this digital festival. Coronavirus is the worst, that's for sure. It is very, very difficult to cure. You can't use penicillin to keep yourself from illin', but lots of nonsense treatments do. You could drink a bunch of Clorox bleaches, or silver like Jim Baker preaches. Tons of water could be drank or cleaner for your fish's tank. You may as well try our leashes.
Look at them, there they are. I will mail you a leech for 3 easy payments of $9.99.
Alcohol can cure it all. Beer and wine, it'll make you feel just fine. If you feel a little sicker, you can always try hard liquor. Any problem, big or small, with alcohol.
Drink 2 and call me in the morning.
Yeah, you know what? That is that reminds me, because we are trying to do anything we can to deal with the current medical situation.
It's true. It's true.
And it reminds me of another song that we like to sing every once in a while.
Is it another drinking song?
Yes!
Oh, my favorite.
We'll drink a drink till the we'll be the cure for coronavirus. I think we should do it one more time. Again, raise your glasses high. We'll drink a drink, whatever we think will be the cure for coronavirus. They did it. I saw it. All right. Now listen, we like to make a lot of jokes. In fact, this entire involvement of ours is going to be quite tongue-in-cheek. Don't say it, no. Okay. But for the record, drinking alcohol will not kill corona. We are being sarcastic.
It is so true. You have to inject the alcohol.
What? No. Shush. All right. We do not recommend the injection of alcohol, nurse. No.
Or anything, unless we do it and are able to charge you money.
You know what? I think that we should tell just a few more jokes before our first act.
A few more jokes.
Ooh,
we love jokes.
Yes. You know what? one of the things about our history is that the nurse was originally trained as a nun. That's right. That's kind of where her garb is from. So we have some nun jokes for you.
Nun jokes.
Right.
Those are the best jokes.
And the nurse in particular has some wonderful long form nun jokes to tell you.
Okay, let's see. Shall we start? So there were these three sweet, young, novice, brand new nurses, and nurses. They had just signed on to help at the clinic at the convent, and the Mother Superior gave them a very important job. They needed to paint the room where the patients were going to be coming in, because unfortunately they expected to be seeing some more patients. But she warned them very sternly, do not get any paint on your brand new habits. That's the only one you get. So you have to keep it clean. And so being very intelligent and creative young nuns, they came up with a plan. They said, well, it's just us here. Why don't we just take our habits off? We will paint and then we won't get any paint on our habits. And they're like, oh, that is such a smart idea. And so they take off their habits and they start painting and they're singing kind of merry rock rendition songs and they're painting along. And then all of a sudden they hear a knock at the door and they go, ah, oh dear, who is it? And the reply is, blind man. And they go, huh. They look at each other and they're like, well, then I guess that'll be fine. And they say, come on in. And the man comes in with his arms full and he looks around, he looks at each of the ladies and he says, nice chest, ladies, where do you want the blinds?
Yes. Well, I'm the last person. We are the last people who would want to take advantage of anyone during this health crisis. But we do know that there are those among you who are having difficulty getting what you need. And we want to make sure that you are supplied. And especially, have you heard that some people nurse have trouble with PPE?
PPE, is that because they've been drinking so much and they're like, I gotta go, there's only the one bathroom in the house and she's taking a shower?
PP emergency. No. I'm talking about personal protective equipment.
Ooh, condoms. Yes, those are very important during this time. We're going to have those quarantines about 13 years from now. No. I'm talking about the stuff that where you don't want to breathe on people. Very important.
We have face masks for you all. I just want to say. And and they're disposable and they're super gentle. And for the low cost of $100, we will give you a 200 count of these. Oh, they're so soft. You just put them over your mouth. You put some Scotch tape on the sides. What a bargain.
Wow.
That's 50 cents a mask.
And they come with lotion too to protect your nostrils.
They're the best. All right. Well, so this brings us to the first of our acts. Now, I want to say that the next act up is going to be one person I am happy to call a friend.
A friend?
Oh,
you
yes.
have one friend? That's so nice.
Well, so Faire Enough, a one-woman act featuring Fair Bonnie Ann, who is Bonnie and Fair.
Ooh.
Yes, she may also be seen performing with Better Than None. And boy, you know, nurse, when those two were performing, I just loved the pieces out of them. I just wanted to
just squeeze them up.
Squeeze them. I just wanted to give Annie a big old kiss. Ooh, is it okay to kiss a nun?
As long as you don't get in the habit.
Oh, okay. So, let us go and listen to Faire Enough with the Fair Bonnie Ann.
Hi, I'm Ann, and you might know me as one half of Better Than None. But since I am in isolation, many miles away from my musical partner, I have been missing performing, and I thought I would dust off this old concept that I've been tossing around and put it out there for you guys. And the concept I'm decided to call Faire Enough? ? And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to take modern songs and cover them in the style of a Ren Fair ballad. So you could say, you'll like this. You could say that I'm cover-ren these songs. Yeah, I make my own fun these days. Anyway, I have a little mini set I'm trying out for you guys, and I'm going to start off with one that I think is a little bit adjacent to my actual usual performance, which is to say it is about a holy person, and you might recognize it. And of course, it's very important to start with a kazoo. That was on purpose.
Such a lovely dear. He could preach the Bible like a preacher, full of ecstasy and fire. But he also was the kind of teacher women would desire. Of course, I mean, Rasputin, lover of the Russian queen. There was a cat that really was gone. Rasputin, Russia's greatest love machine. It was a shame how he carried on. Hey. He ruled the Russian land, and never mind the Tsar, but the Kazachok, he danced really wonderbar. In all the fairs of state, he was the man to please, but he was real great when he had a girl to squeeze. To the queen, he was no wheeler dealer, though she knew the things he'd done. She believed he was a holy healer who would heal her son. And of course we mean Rasputin, lover of the Russian queen. There was a cat that really was gone. Rasputin, Russia's greatest love machine. It was a shame how he carried on. But when his drinking and his lusting and his hunger for power became known to more and more people, the demands to do something about this outrageous man became louder and louder. Hey. This man's just got to go, declared his enemies, but the ladies begged, don't you try to do it, please. No doubt this Rasputin had lots of hidden charms, though he was a brute, they just fell into his arms. Then some night, some men of higher standing set a trap, they're not to blame, Come to visit us, they came demanding, and he really came. Huh? Rasputin. Let's take that again. Rasputin. Give me a moment. Yes. Rasputin, lover of the Russian queen. They put some poison into his wine. Rasputin, Russia's greatest love machine. He drank it up and said I'd be fine. Rasputin, lover of the Russian queen. They didn't quit, they wanted his head.
So this is sorry, there's a little cut in between the songs. I'm not silly enough to try to do them all in one take. I know my limitations. And this next song might be a bit of an unusual pick, but I feel that even with a little bit of tweaking of the lyrics that it required, I still think it has a certain quality that presents itself well enough for Faire Enough. Of course, the answer to that question lies ultimately with you, the listener. So tell me what you think of this story of two princes. Two princes stand before you. Thus I have said now, princes, princes who adore you. Go on ahead now. One has diamonds in his pocket and such great wealth. Now I can only buy you a rocket. I mean the lettuce now. One prince has a princely person. Thus I have seen now, got a royal seal upon his jerkin, crown on his head now. Marry him, your father will condone you. Thus he has said now, marry me, your father will disown you. Need his head now. To call me fairest, go on ahead now. And if you want to call me dearest, go on ahead now. And if you want to pick me flowers, go on ahead now. And if you want to talk for hours, go on ahead now. Said if you want to call me fairest, go on ahead now. And if you want to call me dearest, go on ahead now. And if you want to pick me flowers, go on ahead now. And if you want to talk for hours, go on ahead now. Marry him or marry me, I'm the one that loves you, can't you see? I've got no future or family tree, but I know what a prince and lover ought to be. I know what a prince and lover ought to be. All right, and for the last song of my little 3-song set, I thought I would, make it a little nautical, bring some ocean up in here, and sing a song about sailors and the women who love them and the call of the sea. There's a girl in this harbor
art a fine girl, what a good wife thou wouldst be. Thine eyes could steal a sailor from the sea. Brandy wears a braided chain made of finest silver from the north of Spain. A locket bears the name of a man that Brandy loved. He came on a summer's day, bringing gifts from far away. He made it clear he couldn't stay, no harbor was his home. And the sailor said, Brandy, thou art a fine girl, what a good wife thou wouldst be. But mine life, my love, and my lady is the sea. Yeah, Brandy used to watch his eyes when he told his sailor stories. She could feel the ocean fall and rise. She saw its raging glories, but she had always told the truth. Lord, he was an honest man, and Brandy did her best to understand. At night when the bars close down, Brandy walks through a silent town and loves a man who's not around. She still can hear him say, Brandy, thou art a fine girl, what a good wife you would be. But my life, my love, and my lady is the sea. Brandy, thou art a fine girl, what a good wife you would be. But my life, my love, and my lady is the sea. Is the sea.
Well, I hope you have enjoyed this little tidbit of Fair Enough. And if you enjoyed it and you feel like tipping, I believe they're attaching my Venmo and PayPal, and any little bit will help, because but I also understand we're all in dire straits, so don't get too upset about it. But you can also I created a Facebook page, that's Fair Enough, ? Don't forget the question mark, that's important. And you can give that a like. And maybe you could also, if you wanted to see more things of this nature and you wanted to maybe make some suggestions for songs you'd like to see get this kind of treatment, hit me up and maybe we'll see what happens. Anyway, bye. Hello, bye-bye.
Fair Bonnie Ann. Definitely check out the comment thread to see how you can help support that wonderful, wonderful performer. Oof, I did not realize that they had such poetry. It was beautiful. Oh,
Beautiful.
lyrical. That was an excellent chronistic performance. That was totally appropriate to the Renaissance period.
And we are also so good at that, right?
Yeah, we're not always the best. sometimes we have been accused of being a little anachronistic, nurse.
No,
Yeah.
never.
But remember that we do try our best. We even have a song called 1483 MD, right, nurse?
Oh, yes. Some people really like that song.
Oh, yes. And you know what? We have, again, a new verse for the times.
Let's hear it.
An older gent went to see the doctor with a fever and a nasty cough.
Doctor took one look at his symptoms and said, I don't know what you've got, but you do look off.
Turns out that patient he'd seen was infected with COVID-19. Other patients and the office staff now have it, since that gentleman wasn't screened. And he's an irresponsible doctor, letting patients with a fever walk right in. He's really not the brightest, now he's got coronavirus, and he spreads it everywhere that he's been.
Oh, dear. Dear, dear. Good thing we are much better physicians and nurses than that. And in fact...
Oh, let's not do this.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. So, you know
what next? We have the Vikings. And did you know they are working on a top secret project using honey to create alcohol? It is on a need-to-know basis.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, nurse, why did people start brewing mead?
I think it was to get a little buzz.
We're going to have to...
Cut to them.
Cut to them. Bjorn the Timid, everybody.
Hello, my name is Bjorn the Timid. Some of you may know me as a member of the Ermagerd Viking clan from the Central Missouri Renaissance Fair. And a certain nun asked me to talk to you about some of the mead I make. And while I'm not a professional brewer, just a hobbyist, I'm more than happy to talk about the things that I do. So what I'm going to talk to you all about is specifically my Cicer, which is an apple cinnamon mead in this case. I personally use whole cinnamon sticks, usually 2 or 3 to a 5-gallon batch of mead. And for a 5-gallon batch of mead, I go with 1 gallon of honey. Hello, my name is Bjorn the Timid. Some of you may know me as a member of the Ermagerd Viking clan from the Central Missouri Renaissance Fair. And a certain nun asked me to talk to you about some of the mead I make. And while I'm not a professional brewer, just a hobbyist, I'm more than happy to talk about the things that I do. So what I'm going to talk to you all about is specifically my Cicer, which is an apple cinnamon mead in this case. I personally use whole cinnamon sticks, usually 2 or 3 to a 5-gallon batch of mead. And for a 5-gallon batch of mead, I go with 1 gallon of honey to 5 gallons of, and don't tell anybody, but I use apple juice from concentrate. And that right there is about 1 gallon of honey. very heavy, and then this one in particular is actually solidified, which is not fun, but not end of the world either. If you end up with some solidified honey in your source, you really just need to apply heat. Once you apply heat, it'll return to its liquid or paste or whatever you want to call it state. Well, anyway, back to what I do. So I usually start with a big stew pot, or people call it a brew pot, or whatever they want to call it. I pour 1 or 2 gallons, however much seems like it's going to fit, in there of my non-honey liquid into the pot, and then I throw in my cinnamon sticks, and I heat that. I bring it to just before boil, and I do that because in my short experience, I find that when your liquid is heated, the honey mixes better. I know that that's not everyone's opinion. Not everyone heats their liquid before adding their honey. That's just how I do it. Once that's reached an appropriate temperature, I move that straight into what's called a primary. In my case, I use food grade buckets, a 6-gallon food grade bucket with a hole drilled into the top where I can put in my airlock. Once the heated water is moved into there, I of course add the honey, and then I add the rest of the liquid that wasn't heated to try to lower the temperature as much as I can. Now, at that point, it'll still be very hot, and at that point, I can't pitch the yeast, for instance, because, well, yeast wouldn't do well in that environment. So at that point, I leave it sealed with an airlock on it for a few hours. Sometimes I leave it overnight to cool down, at which point I add my yeast. I typically use a sweet mead yeast, Lalvin D47 ? I can't remember what yeast I use, but I'm out of it, so or else I'd show it. I also I leave the whole sticks of cinnamon in my mead when I pitch it into the primary. Once I'm able to add the yeast into my primary, I seal it up, make sure the airlock has enough water in it, put it in a dark place that is going to stay, relatively controlled temperature-wise. Cover it if any light gets into the room, because and I don't know that it really needs it. Well, it's in my plastic primary, but radiation kind of damages alcohol. That's why you have taller cardboard boxes for beer, actually. But anyway, it will stay in that primary for about 2 weeks. After 2 weeks or so, it will exit the rapid fermentation stage. That's when you stop getting a bubble every 3 seconds or so, sometimes faster, sometimes a little bit slower, depending on your yeast. At that point, I do what's called racking. You rack by moving your mixture from one container to another container, and you do this to get it off of what's called lees, which is basically the leavings of the yeast that sits at the bottom of your container, because that can give an off flavor if it sits on that too long. I usually repeat that process one more time after that, but not after 2 weeks. It's usually a month or two down the road before I rack again. And then it stays in, at that point, we just call that tertiary, for however long I feel like it needs to clarify. Clarifying is a process of it just becoming clearer. I don't know if this is necessarily true, if this is what you're supposed to aim for, but I read once that you're supposed to be able to read the newspaper through your mead. I've aged my mead until I could get it to that point before. I, again, don't know if that's necessarily true, if you have to wait that long before your meat is finished or not. That's just how I do it. Let's see. I guess I forgot to mention, after primary, when I'm racking it into another container, it's actually a glass carboy. This is because, one, glass is non-reactive, and two, because you need to be able to see into your secondary and your tertiary to make sure that, one, it didn't screw something up. If you see something big and marshmallowy looking growing on top of your mead, something went wrong. Usually, from what I've read, that's caused because your containment was not clean or secure enough. You need to make sure that your airlock is filled if you're using a water airlock, so on and so forth, to make sure contaminants don't get into your brew. But honestly, that's about it. It takes some equipment that I didn't go into to make all of this possible, just because it's a lot and I don't want to move it around. But it's actually a pretty easy process to go about brewing. And I use some specialized things, like I use specifically a brewing yeast. I know a guy in Kentucky who actually submitted his mead for competition and won, who used bread yeast. Just bread yeast that you can buy in the grocery store. So, it's whatever you end up preferring based on experience. That's what it comes down to. Well, anyway, that's about it. Want to thank you all for listening. Have a nice day.
Bjorn the Timid, everyone.
Let's give an extra shout out to him because he wants any tips donated to him to go to Extra Life. That's so wonderful.
Bjorn the Timid makes us think of our favorite Vikings.
Oh, yes. Oh, we love our Viking folk from Kansas City.
Oh, the Viking folk are the best. Now, they don't make mead, but they're just wonderful to be around. And, oh, my gosh, I just dream of those sexy, strong muscles.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
which one's your favorite?
Astrid. She's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I can't disagree with that.
Yeah, we worked with them in the past. We actually have them on one of our CDs.
That's right, CDs. We have CDs, and they have a special cameo on it, on our original Humors, which you can get for $15, our Body, new for $10, or both for $20 if you Venmo us.
That's right. We're going to waive all shipping costs in the continental U.S. So if you Venmo us, and this will be private between us, tell us you want a CD, which one, and go ahead and give us your address, and we will, again, eat those shipping costs and make sure you've got one, all right? And while we are on the subject of Venmo, you know how you use a card to pay with Venmo usually? Now, I have been using some of this downtime during this pandemic to learn to read tarot cards.
Ooh, how exciting.
Oh, very exciting, nurse. Can I read your tarot?
Oh, yes, read it.
Okay, this is going to be so fun. Okay. Ooh, the first tarot that I am drawing is the Queen of Cups. Oh, this is really good, nurse, because the Queen of Cups is a beautiful woman with blonde hair, and she's a nurturing figure. So it's you.